welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got the New York Jets are heading in the right direction. Let's check this
In
out.
my over 20 years of experience with the
You hear
NFL,
that
there have
every
always been
year,
two
bro.
teams that have consistently
shit.
not been very good. Those are the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns. So in today's video, I want to talk about the New York Jets and why I think they're currently heading in the right direction.
Okay.
Subscribe if you're new, let's hop into it. So the way the video is going to work is I am going to talk about what happened last year in the beginning of the video, then we'll talk about their offseason moves, and then towards the back end, we'll talk about 2025 and what to expect. So as you can see, this is some of the statistics of the 2024 season. On the offensive end, they ranked 24th in points per game, 24th in yards per game, and 18th in touchdowns per game. Pretty mediocre offensive statistics. When it came to rushing the football, this was not a very effective rushing attack last year. And in terms of a passing offense, they were about middle of the pack in some categories, but for the most part, not very great.
I think their rushing attack is gonna be a lot better this year, mainly because of how good Justin Fields is with his legs. That read option game with Breece Hall or Braylon Allen, shit, I ain't gonna lie, that might be lethal.
Speaking,
bro.
they were not atrocious, giving up 23.8 points per
I
game.
feel like the rushing attack that's gotta be the focal
yards per
point
game
on their
allowed, which is the
offense
5th best and the 16th best opponent's touchdowns per game. You also have some pretty good statistics in here, like opponent yards per play, which was the 2nd best in the NFL, to go along with a pretty solid 3rd down conversion rates. They were okay to below average against the run, and against the pass, they were actually pretty good. So there's a lot of different ways we can start the conversation about 2024. I think the best way to start it off is by talking about Aaron Rodgers. Admittedly speaking, I didn't think Aaron played like atrociously bad. I thought that given the team that was around him, given the coaching staff that he had, I thought A-Rod did the best.
But trust me, the QBR tells you everything you need to know of how good and how bad a quarterback played last year.
With what he had,
real shit.
Still, he wasn't very good. It also doesn't help
atrocious.
him that other players around him, like Breece Hall, struggled with injuries for most of the year. Garrett Wilson was kind of inconsistent last year, though for the most part, he was pretty good. They never really had a serious weapon outside of Garrett Wilson, and as I mentioned earlier, the rushing attack just wasn't as good as it maybe should have been. Obviously, the coaching staff was not great last year. You bring in a whole new coaching staff this upcoming season. Should have decided Garrett Wilson. And as I mentioned earlier, the rushing attack just wasn't as good as it maybe.
Don't you ever throw the ball like that with Harrison Smith coming across the middle.
Should have been. Obviously, the coaching staff was not great last year. You bring in a whole new coaching staff this upcoming season with Aaron Glenn now as your head coach. I think a lot of these offensive statistics should be a lot better. Defensively speaking, they were a little bit of a disappointing defense because we have been talking about this Jets defense as one of the best defenses out there. Though I do think that some context needs to be added with those numbers. For starters, when you have such a poor offense that is just not consistently moving the ball up and down the field and giving your defense breaks, you're going to see defensive statistics not look too great. It happened last year for the Cleveland Browns defense too, where the Browns defense is extremely talented, but their offense is just so bad that it ended up kind of hurting the defense. And that's not to point all of the blame on the offense. The defense does deserve some blame too. They could have been much better in the secondary. Sauce Gardner had a little bit of a down season. They didn't really have enough in terms of run defense.
Would y'all say that
so
Sauce
just in totality, a bit of a disappointing defense. But with that said, in the offseason, a bunch of things happened and a lot of changes have been made, so let's talk about it. Let us begin with the free agency, where they signed players like Justin Fields, Brandon Stevens, Andre Cisco, Josh Reynolds, and
oh man, bro. Jets, y'all secondary is fucked. I'm telling you right now, bro. What made y'all want to get this nigga 3-year, 36 mil? Oh my, now Cisco, that's a dog. I fuck with Cisco. Y'all got a dog with him. That nigga right there, y'all lose DJ Reed, and this who y'all picked to replace him?
Number of other players
Good
as
luck to
well.
y'all,
You
nigga.
re-signed big
I
time
ain't
player
gonna
like
lie.
Jamian Sherwood on a
Good
pretty
luck to
sizable
y'all.
contract. And you released Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, and veteran CJ Mosley.
Yeah, that's
We'll
a
begin
big
with the
hit for
free
that,
agency, and here in a
that
moment we'll
defense,
talk
bro.
about what happened
That's
in the
the heart and
draft.
soul of
Let's
that
start off with the
defense right
Justin
there.
Fields conversation. This is a very interesting pickup. Now, I do not mind the 2-year, $40 million deal. It's a pretty safe contract to where you only have to
least
worry
you get
about
to
it
play
for
with Garrett
this year
again.
and next year.
That's
And
one
even if
thing I'm
Justin
looking
Fields
forward
does
to
not
for
work
him.
out this year and you go on to draft a quarterback next year, then you probably have a really solid backup in Justin Fields, who, yes, will be getting paid around $20 million, but you'll have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract. So in terms of the Field signing, it's a high reward, low risk move. But at the same time, there is, like, I don't know. I just don't think that Justin Fields is not the quarterback that we wanted him to be coming out of college. Now, granted, Justin Fields has been on some teams that have not really been extremely talented offensively, like with the really Chicago Bears, always had a poor offensive line and just didn't really have the talent around him. And then, of course, for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year, he had some pieces around him, but it was a very incomplete offense with a poor offensive line and really just like one consistent weapon in George Pickens. Incomplete offense with a poor offensive line and really just like one consistent weapon in George Pickens. But even then, George Pickens can be somewhat inconsistent himself. And then at that, even though Justin Fields was playing a little bit better for the Steelers, he ended up getting benched for the veteran Russell Wilson. And even when Russell Wilson was struggling, the Steelers never went back to Justin Fields. So with the New York Jets, I think it's pretty fair of me to say that he's on the most talented team offensively that he's ever had. The offensive line for the Jets is really solid. Again, we'll talk about this in more detail here in a moment, but surrounding Justin Fields with some legitimate weapons, some legitimate pieces, a good head coach that I think will show some confidence.
That offense still mediocre at best, bro. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Garrett Wilson, maybe Mason Taylor, he a dog. I ain't gonna lie, he a dog. Outside of those two, you don't really got much. Now, if Arian Smith can actually catch the ball consistently, because he had 10 drops last year. If he can actually catch the ball, they might have a weapon with him.
In Justin and allow him to flourish.
He's mainly just a track star. So I do think
this is kind of a make or break year for Justin. You have a lot of pieces around you. No, it's not the most ideal offense in the world, but there should be enough to at least show flashes and glimpses of the Justin Fields that we want to see. So again, a high reward, low risk move here. I ultimately think it should end up working out. We'll just have to wait and see.
Hopefully.
Then they signed Brandon Stephens to be their DJ Reed replacement. Now, we all kind of knew that DJ Reed was out the door because he made it pretty vocal that he wanted to go to a new team. He ends up signing with the Detroit Lions, and the New York Jets end up replacing him with Brandon Stephens. Now, admittedly speaking, I think Brandon is a very average to below average cornerback too. And to pay him around, $12 million a year feels a little bit like a bit of an overpay.
Yeah.
But I will say he is a veteran. He seems to be a pretty good locker room guy. And the Jets do actually have a lot of talent in that cornerback room with a player they drafted in the draft, as well as Quantum Stiggers. So if they think that long-term one of those guys will be the cornerback too, then maybe this could end up working out. I still think there's maybe some better cornerbacks available in the market. With that said, it's not
Asante Samuel was available. Why the fuck y'all? Oh yeah, I forgot. He did have a neck surgery shit. But still, bro, I'm taking Asante Samuel post neck surgery over Brandon Stephens any day.
Terrible move. It's only a 3-year deal, so it's not.
Then you also had Gilmore.
Andre Cisco's a really solid safety. They definitely needed some help in the safety room because they had so many just average to below average bodies last year. Andre Cisco steps in there and at least gives you a starting caliber safety. Josh Reynolds has been around the NFL for quite some time. He's just kind of a consistent third or fourth option receiver, so that's what you're getting there. Josh Myers has been a starter for most of his career. He's a solid player. Probably will be more of a depth option for this team, which is a really solid thing to have. Then outside of that, Stone Smart, backup tight end, Derek Nottie, rotational interior defensive lineman, so on and so forth. The Jamien Sherwood contract was a bit of a hefty deal, but I think it was totally the right move to make. Jamien Sherwood is one of the best linebackers in the NFL, and honestly one of the best younger linebackers out there too. He's great against the run. He's decent in coverage. I just thought it was the right move to make. Now, we haven't talked about Davante Adams, who was somebody that they brought in last year to help out Aaron Rodgers and just never really quite worked out. Obviously, I would have loved to see this team keep Davante Adams because you paired Davante with Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, your new tight end, who we'll talk about in a moment, as well as Justin Fields, to just give Justin Fields as much talent as possible. But at the same time, I also completely understand not wanting to bring back Davante Adams
there's some
because
veteran receivers out there they could bring championships.
And he's maybe not the greatest culture fit for this roster, especially if you're trying to get off of that Aaron Rodgers vibe that happened last year. And not to mention his contract is also a pretty hefty contract, and if you did keep Davante Adams, maybe you would not have been able to sign certain players like an Andre Cisco and maybe a Brandon Stephens. So I thought it made some sense. Ultimately, I would have preferred them to keep Davante if they could have worked out maybe a more reasonable contract, but I totally understand why it ended up happening this way. Which then brings me to the 2025 NFL Draft, beginning with number 1, Armand Membou. Armand Membou is a perfect fit for this team. You brought in Olu Fashanu last year to be your long-term left tackle. Armand Membou instantly steps in day 1 as your long-term right tackle. Having both your tackle positions figured out for hypothetically the next 10 to 15 years is going to be a huge advantage for this team, especially with Aaron Glenn, who was working with the Detroit Lions, who knows how important having a good offensive line is. I do think that Armand Membou is just a great fit for this team. Very solid athlete, big athlete, can move quite well. He's also physical, and his demeanor is perfect for the position. I think there's still a lot of room for growth. So I think in year 1, he'll be average to maybe a little bit below average, which is fine. But as time does go on, we're talking about somebody with the potential to be one of the best tackles out there. Then in round 2, they took the tight end in Mason Taylor. This was a Jets team last year that didn't really have any serious starting tight ends on the roster.
This nigga that catches everything,
who was, I guess, a fine player, but he didn't really have much of an upside as a run blocker, nor really as a pass catcher. He was just average at that, like a really good backup, but not a great number 1. Mason Taylor instantly steps in here, and he's still a very developmental tight end. Like, there's still a lot of room for growth, but the potential for Mason Taylor is to become one of the better tight ends out there. Good size, he's physical, he's long, he catches everything. He's going to be a reliable safety blanket for Justin Fields. I just see an upside here for him to be like a consistent top 10 tight end in the league as time does go on. So good pickup right here. Then one of my favorite picks of the draft in the 3rd round, they took Azariah Thomas. Azariah, I apologize.
He was projected to be a 1st round pick in some mock drafts for a minute. So this would definitely steal in the 3rd
is a very
round.
long, lengthy receiver who lacks the top end speed, but he's really good in press coverage. He can get his hands on you, and when he does get his hands on you, he can be really sticky and hard to get off of. I do think that the 4.58 speed, which I think he ran at the 40-yard dash, is maybe a little bit too harsh. Like, I think when you watch him on film, he can show some decent athleticism here and there.
But
with that said, he's definitely not somebody who flashes like 4.3, 4.4 speed. He looks like he runs about a 4.5. So you're likely not going to put him on like a Tyreek Hill or an extremely mobile and fast receiver, because if you do, he might be able to get past Azariah and make him look pretty bad. But against receivers more like a Jefferson or Devontae Adams or somebody like that, I do think Azariah could have some success with his size, arm length, and physicality. I do think this is a bit more of a developmental pick where he might be benched behind Brandon Stevens for a year, rotate in here and there, but in 2026 or 2027, he could be your long-term answer next to Sauce Gardner, which would then give you 2 very long, lengthy, and physical cornerbacks out there that in a lot of ways kind of play similar to each other. Then they took Arian Smith. This one's interesting. So Arian is somebody that is just a complete, he's just a complete disaster when the ball gets to him. But man, he is just a freak athlete. Like, he can just absolutely move and run, can do a lot of work in the screen game. But man, he's got a long injury history, and this dude has 0 ball skills. Like, absolutely 0 ball skills. The amount of drops that he had last year for Georgia was crazy.
Bro, like, it's not funny, but it is at the same time that the Jets are trying to get better. And it's like, oh my gosh, bro. There was so many better receivers still on the board that they could have drafted, bro, and they chose Arian Smith. Now, he has high upside with, him being a freak athlete and you know what I'm saying, him being just mainly a track star. But, bro, hearing him say he has 0 ball skills just fried me right there. I'm not gonna lie.
Some stuff going on with his wrists and hands and stuff like that.
But,
but
regardless
Nash,
of that, he was on the board.
Really struggled to catch the football.
They need a big body
but he has
receiver.
that top end speed that you just cannot teach. Like, he is a legit track athlete. And maybe this could be your long-term Malachi Corley replacement, who didn't really work out for this team last year. But I just feel like personally a round 4 pick on Arian Smith was just a little bit too rich. I would have felt much more comfortable with a late day 3 pick on him. Early day 3 for me just felt extremely rich, and just, I don't know. You got to trust him to stay healthy. You got to work on the hands. He just has no ball skills.
I'd rather him go to the Jets than fuck around and go to the Chiefs and they turn him into Tyreek Hill 2.0.
No, and that's something you just don't take.
We don't need no more speed on that.
Then
Chiefs
they took Malachi Moore from Bama.
Oh yeah, I forgot they drafted
Malachi
Malachi
Moore.
The nickel.
Hey,
that's a nigga right there. A Malachi Moore is a nigga.
Maybe
Real
play
shit.
more like a star, depending on what the Jets want to
That
do with
nigga
him. He
dog.
just has so much
Hard
versatility.
nose,
Play multiple positions.
not afraid to
played
tackle.
for Nick Saban. Played for DeBoer. Did so many things
He
just as a
dog,
deep safety, as a strong safety, playing within the nickel. He'll offer versatility to this Jets secondary, which they just don't have right now. I do think that there is a world where Malachi Moore actually does get some legitimate playing time early on.
Nigga.
He's well sized. He's a solid athlete. He's so versatile and can just do so many things for the secondary. And again, as I mentioned last year, the safety room for this team was just not very good. So Malachi Moore steps in there, can play safety, can play on the nickel, and can just offer so much versatility to this team.
Day one
now,
starter
the rest
right
of
there.
this draft, Kiko, the linebacker from Miami, more of a special teams depth option guy. Tyler Barron, a rotational edge rusher, are more of your special teams guys, your players who might get some playing time here and there, but more than likely will be more practice squad players. In total, I think this was a solid draft. Like, for this to be the first draft of Aaron Glenn's career as the head coach of the Jets, you bring in your future right tackle, you bring in your future tight end, you bring in a future cornerback too, a potential weapon on the defense, some depth in certain positions. I thought for the most part it was a pretty successful draft. Even though it wasn't my favorite draft, I still think it was a pretty good job. So with the offseason in the book, let's go in and talk about what do I expect in 2025. Let's begin with the offense here, which looks quite different from last year. As we all know, Justin Fields will be the starting quarterback, though I do expect Tyrod Taylor to at least compete for the starting job during the training camp process. Ultimately, I do think the team will go with the younger quarterback in Justin Fields, because why would you waste your time with a veteran like Tyrod, who, I mean, let's be honest, is who he is. Justin Fields is young, has the potential to develop to be a quarterback one. We'll just have to wait and see. Around him, you have Breece Hall, who hopefully can stay healthy. I do think this team is going to be a bit more run focused.
Hey, if you don't stay healthy, bro, that nigga Braylon Allen taking his spot.
Allen, Isaiah Davis, and Breece Hall. There was some conversation about potentially trading Hall, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. I don't think they will end up doing it, but you never know. So if they decide to keep Breece Hall, I think he's a fine running back one, and then behind him you have some really good young depth options there too that can do some different things. Receiving core wise, I think there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. Garrett Wilson will be your receiver one. Josh Reynolds is a bit more of a proven wide receiver two, albeit not a very good wide receiver too. And then Allen Lazard just hasn't worked out for this team. He was great for the Packers with Aaron Rodgers a few years ago, but really just has not been very good at all for this roster. Behind him, you got Malachi Corley, Arian Smith, Xavier Gibson. Those guys might get some chances to prove their worth. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. Mason Taylor's your new tight end, and your offensive line just looks really solid on paper. Olu Fashanu, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Josh Myers behind him, Elijah Vera Tucker, Armand Membu, and Chuck Okorafor, I believe came from the Patriots last year, who was a starter for them, but probably will be more of like your swing tackle this year. So in total, I don't expect this offense to take a huge step forward, but I do expect them to take a huge step forward as a running football team. This will be probably more of a run-first team that will rely on the legs of Breece Hall, Allen, and Justin Fields. This offense should be better than what it was last year. Like, I expect them to take a step forward, but not such a step forward to where this offense is like a top 15 unit. At the end of the day, there's just so many great offenses out there, and I just don't think the Jets currently have all the pieces quite yet there. But I do think they have some foundational pieces to work with. This offensive line is good. It's also fairly young. A young tight end that's still going to develop and get better and better. Young receiver in Garrett Wilson, and potentially a young starting quarterback in Justin Fields if it ends up working out. But even if Fields doesn't work out, you're going to be in a prime position where next year you're probably not going to be the greatest team in the world, so you might have a top 10 pick, especially if Fields is not good, and you could end up taking one of the young quarterbacks in 2026, which will then offer you a young rookie quarterback on a cheap deal that might have the upside to be your franchise guy. So in general, I think this offense is taking steps forward. It's just kind of hard to predict because we don't know what to expect from Justin Fields. But if Justin does play fine next year, then I think we can expect this offense to take a nice step forward. Defensively speaking, it's a very similar unit to last year, just a lot of changes in the secondary. I still think that they kind of dropped the ball with the interior defensive line. Derek Nottie will step in there and probably play opposite of Quinnen Williams and rotate in with some other guys, but I would have really liked to have seen them be a bit more aggressive and actually fixing up that interior defensive line around Quinnen Williams. Quinnen is dominant, but man, last year there was just nobody around him that you could trust, and I kind of worried that might be the case again this year. I think that was a big reason why this team really struggled against the run, because you don't really have the edge rushers in Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald that are super dominant against the run, especially Will McDonald. He's just more of a pass rusher right now. And when you have two edge rushers that aren't particularly great against the run, I would say Jermaine's better in the run than Will, but still not incredible. Then you're relying so heavily on Quinnen Williams, who even Quinnen is more of a pass rushing interior defensive lineman more than like a true run stuffer, even though he's really good at both. So bringing in Derek Nottie will definitely help. He's definitely probably the best option from what they had last year. But I still feel like, man, it would have been nice to see like one or two more players to just add some bodies to this room. Your linebackers remain, for the most part, the same, except you don't have CJ Mosley. You bring in Jamin Davis. And in your secondary, you're banking that Sauce Gardner returns to form. Last year was a little bit inconsistent, but I think there were some other things that caused Sauce to be a little bit disappointing last year. Around 10, your safeties are going to be Tony Adams.
Now he fucking Ice Spice. He should turn up this year, bro.
Maybe Malachi Moore, and then Andre Cisco. I think that room is better with some young talent, but we'll have to wait and see. It's still kind of up in the air. And then your second cornerback position, obviously, Brandon Stephens is a downgrade from DJ Reed, but you do have some young guys behind him like Quantez and Azarea. Maybe Isaiah Oliver, but probably not. Could get in there and maybe make some noise in that cornerback 2 role. And then Michael Carter II will play your nickel spot. In general, this defense, I think, will be similar to last year, but maybe take a small step forward, or maybe honestly the opposite. It's kind of hard to discuss. Just because you lost some pieces, but you also gained some things here and there. With Aaron Glenn being the head coach, he's going to prioritize his defense, but I can kind of see a world where this defense has to take a bit of a step back to take a step forward. We'll just have to wait and see. And then when I look at the schedule for the New York Jets, it's not the worst I've ever seen. Pittsburgh's winnable, Buffalo probably not, Tampa Bay probably not, Miami, Dallas somewhat.
Damn, I ain't gonna lie. They're really tough games is against Buffalo. They play them twice a year. Tampa, Miami if they stay healthy. Dallas could definitely get them some problems, bro. Denver, Carolina, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I expect Joe Burrow to slice their secondary up. I'm not gonna hold you. Cleveland, they should beat Cleveland. New England, they play them twice a year. I don't know. We definitely fucking them up. And we go against Brandon Stephens too. Oh yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Zay or Bait is fucking him up. I'm not gonna lie. And y'all come to the bank too. Yeah, we waxing y'all. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Atlanta, they play. Whew, oh my gosh. They got some tough games.
Winnable. Denver somewhat winnable. That'll be a tough one though. Carolina, Cincinnati, Cleveland, New England, those 4 are pretty winnable games, although you'll probably maybe lose to Cincinnati there. Baltimore's tough. Atlanta, maybe. Miami, maybe. Jacksonville, maybe. New Orleans, probably. New England, maybe. And Buffalo, probably not. So just kind of looking at it from first glance, like Buffalo is probably going to be some losses. You're going to lose to Baltimore more than likely. Denver's a tough matchup. Tampa Bay's a tough matchup. But outside of that, this is a pretty solid schedule for a team to have. It's also pretty nice to have a week 9 bye week like right in the middle. So I want to set the expectations pretty straight here. I don't think the Jets will be making the playoffs in 2025. I just think that's super unrealistic to expect that from them. But I do think that we can expect this Jets team to take a step forward next year and be a better roster. But you guys let me know in the comment section below. What do you think about this New York Jets team? Do you think they're taking steps in the right direction? Let me know.
We'll see, bro. It's hard to, you know what I'm saying, say that, and then they just come out and do the same shit they've been doing these last couple of years, bro. This is a Jets team that has not won a playoff game since the year 2000. So, do not expect them to do anything special at all, bro. Like, as much as I want to believe in Justin Fields, you know what I'm saying, Garrett Wilson, them boys, it's the Jets at the end of the day, bro. So, we're just going to have to wait and see how they play. But, hey, man, shit. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Y'all let me know what other NFL videos I'm going to react to. Without further ado, I'm out.
I'ma make them feel me, make them people when they show me. And if you don't know me, I'ma make sure that you know me. I hate to say it, but I really think I'm broke. But I know I'm chosen, I really know I'm chosen. I know I'm chosen. I was just lost a year ago, but now I'm focused. When good at sports, this microphone can be my trophy. Not taking drugs, I found a better way of coping.